視線が空から降ってくる。その瞳はいつも僕を見つめていて、眼差しは熱くて真っ黒な雨雲を突き抜けて、雨のように僕へと降り注ぐ。僕を見るな。雨の冷たさより、背中を預けている瓦礫の冷たさのせいで、さっきから体の震えが止まらない。ひどく寒い。突き刺さってくる誰のものかもわからない天からの視線。それから逃げるように、僕はわずかに首を持ち上げて周囲を見回す。そこにあるのは崩壊した街。そこにあるのは絶望。そこにあるのは死。そこにあるのは無。誰もいない。誰も動いていない。誰も生きていない。聞こえるのはただ降り続ける雨の音だけ。このまま全てを、生きているものも死んでいるものも、全てを優しく包み込んで洗い流してしまうんだろうか。全部の出来事が単なる妄想だったらよかったんだけど、どうやらそうでもないらしい。体が動かない。動かせるのはかろうじて首と瞳だけ。体が震えているけど、そんなのただの生理現象でしかない。僕の意志じゃない。僕は身を震わせたいなんて思ってない。僕の自由にならないなら、こんなの僕の体じゃない。あるいは、生まれた時から僕は自由なんかじゃなかったかもしれない。心の保管してある場所なんて誰にもわからないんだ。それなのに、一体誰がこの体の中に僕の心があるって言い切れるんだ。
Oh, I almost forgot. Sorry, music. You and DMCA strikes. Force my hand.
でも、だったら僕はどこにいたんだろう。僕はここにいるのかな。僕はどこにもいないのかな。すべてが静止している壊れてしまった世界に、ふと死の雨以外の音が響く。無の中から浮かび上がってくるたった一つの湯。君は誰？その肌が青白く見えるのは、雨の冷たさに凍えているから、それとも君がもう死んでいるから。でも彼女は震えていなかった。そして前髪で隠れそうになっているその瞳は、僕を見るな。ひどく悲しそうにも見える。狂気じみているようにも見える。何も映していないようにも見える。もしも 世界には僕と彼女の二人だけしかいなくて、こうしてお互いだけを永遠に見つめ合っていたら、僕の世界は彼女の瞳に映るものだけになるのかな。彼女の世界は僕の瞳に映るものだけになるのかな。彼女の瞳に映るものは僕。僕の瞳に映るものは彼女。そう考えると、世界は途端に矮小化する。
ねえ。
不意に僕の耳に届く、とても綺麗なノイズ。彼女はうなだれて、両手を左右に広げる。まるであの雨雲の上へ向けて飛び立とうとするかのように。あるいはこの雨すべてを受け止めようとするかのように。
あなたは別にかわいそう。
うなだれた彼女の表情は僕の位置からも伺い知ることができない。雨の薄膜の向こうで君はどんな顔をしている？
殺してあげる。
天使、乱舞する光の羽は僕を祝福しているのか、それとも、ああ、そうか、理解したよ。それで僕を殺してくれるんだね。ゆっくりと倒れている僕の前に彼女が膝をつく。いまだに彼女はうなだれたまま、僕の頭をそっと抱えてくる。僕を見てくれないことに僕はほっとしてただ身を委ねた。耳元でささやき、綺麗なノイズ。でもよく聞こえない。暖かくて柔らかくて優しくて甘美な感触。それは麻酔のようで、不思議なことに体の震えがゆっくりと収まっていく。彼女のかすかな鼻息が僕の頬をくすぐる。とても甘い匂い。ふと胸に圧迫感を覚えた。彼女の持っていた大きな剣が僕の胸の皮膚を裂き、肉をえぐり、骨の間を縫い、ゆっくりと体の中に沈み込んできている。でも彼女のキスという麻酔にかけられて、もう痛みを感じない。こんなにも優しく殺してくれるから、不意に切なくなって、涙が溢れそうになって、それをごまかすために彼女の頭越しに雨を落とし続けている鈍色の空を見上げた。空が滲んでいるのは雨のせい、涙のせい。もうあの視線も感じない。もう何もない。薄れゆく意識の中で僕は空へと手を伸ばす。誰か教えて。僕たちのあの空はどこへ行ったんだろう。
Chapter 1, Eyes and Eyes. You can't see a gaze. It can see you, but you can't see it. It's weird. For as long as I could remember, I'd often felt a gaze staring at me from somewhere. I would turn around and know it would be there, but I'd be sure somebody was looking at me. I could feel the sensation like something crawling on my neck. Was I just too self-conscious? Did I have some kind of phobia about being looked at? Up until elementary school, I honestly believed that it was God. God is watching me, I would say. I wrote an essay about something like that. Of course, looking back, I realized how silly it was. I was the biggest chunny dork. If somebody were to ever read that essay, I'd be so embarrassed, I'd never leave my house again. I still remember the thing's title. Whose eyes are those? The back of the chair I was resting in made a creaking sound, like the voice of an old woman.
僕を見るな。
I whispered those words as I looked up at the ceiling, feeling sick and annoyed. Of course, no one responded. This was my room. I lived alone. Nobody was here but me. Just for the hell of it, I turned around. The room was longer than it was wide, and it was a little dark. The only light in the room came from my computer's desk light. There were no windows, so of course it was dark. Since I had no way of looking outside, I had no way of knowing if it was night or day. I turned towards a corner of the dark room and spoke to no one in particular.
僕の名前は西条匠。17歳。水明学園2年。と言っても学校にはほとんど行ってないけど。まあそれでも勉強はできる方だよ。定期テストはちゃんと受けてる。しかもそれなりに上位の点数を取ってるからね。頭はいいんだ。
Of course, nothing happened when I said this. Nobody appeared out of the darkness. The dark space just existed, silently. But darkness stimulates the mind, makes it see delusions. Not being able to see whatever is there makes it an unknown. You know in your head what's impossible, but somewhere inside your heart you imagine terrible things lurking within the darkness. Jeez. Whenever a scary delusion popped in my head, my mind always ran away with it. I kept talking to try to shake it out of my mind.
僕は現在アウェイじゃなかった。渋谷で一人暮らしをしてる。この紅会館ビルは父さんの経営するビル会社の管理下にあるんだけど、その屋上に設置されたコンテナハウスを格安で借りてるんだ。街の環境は最悪。僕が住んでる新船町は小さな坂が多いから疲れるし、すぐ近くにラブホ街もあるし。ここが秋葉なら最高だったのに。ほんと渋谷ってひどい街だ。円数で言うとディーンズバレーくらいひどい。
ESO was a MMORPG that had made my life's work. It's short for Empire Sweeper Online. I spent almost all day and almost all night playing the game, passing my time in the world of Baselard. Dean's Valley is an area in ESO with a lot of really aggravating monsters in it. They use all kinds of obnoxious status element attacks, but they don't even drop decent items. Anybody who grinds there is an idiot. Good players give up on it quickly and head to the next area, the Forest of Liet. And obviously I'm a good player.
というわけでドキュンと恋愛資本主義者が集まるこんな街は即刻滅ぶべきだね。でもこの部屋の住み心地はまあまあ我慢できるレベル。PC とネット環境は最高水準クラスが揃ってるからね。まあ学生にしては上等の基地じゃないかな。あ、だから僕はこの部屋のことをベースって呼んでる。
Of course, nothing in the room moved except for me. Talking to myself was starting to make me feel like an idiot, so I decided to stop introducing myself to whoever was watching me.
それにしても汚い部屋だな。
It smelled moldy. The air was so stale and damp you could feel it on your skin. The floor was piled high with empty plastic drink bottles and trays left over from convenience store lunches. The bed was stacked high with H games. I always ended up having to sleep up on the sofa.
片付けろよな。誰だよ散らかしっぱなしにしたのは。って僕か。
My creepy laugh kind of annoyed me, but I kicked the plastic bottle at my feet. It flew up, almost high enough to hit my figure shelf. I screamed and leaned forward, using my own body to block it. We've got almost 100 wives, big sisters, and daughters, and I can't let them get hurt. They keep me going, so they're very important to me. I cleaned and organized the shelf once a week. It was the only cleaning I did. Every day I tried to find new angles and positions to make them look cuter. I didn't want my beloved daughters and sisters getting dusty, so I always made sure to clean them. I breathed a sigh of relief and tossed the bottle into a corner, then faced back towards my PC. The PC sat in the far corner of my room. Next to the monitor was a figure from my favorite anime, BT, or Blood Tune, the animation. Sierraton, 1/8 scale, pre-awakening version. She smiled at me while posing cutely.
セーラー、かわいいよ、セーラー。
I whispered as Sierraton and I stared into each other's eyes for a minute. Then I gulped down the bottle of soda next to the computer. It was lukewarm, but that didn't bother me.
さてと、円すらないと。
I sank down into the chair and put my hands on the keyboard. Just the act of sitting at the computer was enough to calm me. My ESO character, Nightheart, was a paladin, already on his second reincarnation. He was level 50, the max of course. He was also the highest ranked player on any active server. Almost every player knew the name Lightning Fast Nightheart, and they all treated me like a god. Rare weapons, rare armor, rare magic. I had it all. I had 95% of all the rare items in the game. Not as many as I wanted, honestly. And I had more money points than I could ever use in a lifetime. RMT, or real money trading, was how I made money to use in the real world. I had enough to survive for 6 months without having to get a part-time job. I was master of the chat tool. I used it for almost all my communications. I'd even saved life on @chan, a huge message board once, and I was always there whenever a festival was going down. Oh, right, I had to pay more than 100 friends on FreePutta, and that's a social network. Respect, trust, it was all right here. I didn't go to school. It wasn't that I didn't want to go, just there was no point. I did all my studying on the internet, and obviously you can do that at home. Of course, you needed to attend a certain number of classes to graduate, so I went just enough to get the bare minimum passing grade. That was the smartest way for a student to live. My parents were pretty obnoxious about this stuff. So I made myself a schedule for when I'd go to school. According to the sheet, all I had to do was go to school 2.5 times a week. The people who went every day called me a creepy otaku, but if you asked me, I'd tell you that they were the morons for just going because someone told them they should. Anyway, my life here is not that bad. Oh crap, I got distracted by that gaze. I forgot I was talking to Grim. Grim was the screen name of a guy I always parted up with in ESO. I'd never met him in real life, but we talked all the time online. He brought me a lot of valuable information. He was like my own personal informant, you could say. I sat down and began to type at the keyboard. What's wrong? You're not responding. Did you fall asleep? Hey, Nightheart. Sorry, I didn't fall asleep, but I kind of spaced out, lol. You must be really tired. You're not sleeping enough? Doing hentai stuff with your girlfriend? Lol. All day, all night? I'm not into 3D girls, lol. Grim and I would talk about all kinds of things. Since I could see his face, it was easy to tell him anything. Of course, in the real world, that's not how it should go. H games? So you're a 2D man then. H games? You're really in a hentai mood tonight, huh? You always have a really perverted delusions, though, right? You used to always talk about them. You really were into them. Something about doing naughty things with a girl in a school swimsuit? Was I? I don't really remember. Anyway. If that's what you want to talk about, let's discuss something near to my heart. School swimsuit and glasses. School swimsuit and glasses, yes or no? Well, no. Competition swimsuits are better than school swimsuits. Yes? I don't even know what that means. The swim cap is a must. Swim cap is a must, no. Anyway, yeah, see, glasses? Who needs glasses? I actually prefer competition swimsuits. Swim caps are an absolute no-go, not a chance in hell. Lol, come on, man. You really like swimsuits, huh? What man doesn't? I mean, really. It's not just about showing skin, you know. A fully dressed girl with no panties is sexier than Panmoro, right? It's the same deal. I mean, I'm okay with either. What? Are you telling me you don't understand how hot no panty stuff is? I like my girls totally naked. You don't understand Moe at all. A complete and utter perv. That's our Nightheart. We fear him, but we love him too. Lol. Calm down, man. I mean, maybe I did get a little excited. I tried to be the cool, silent type. Cool, lol. Don't laugh. Anyway, what were we talking about before I fell asleep? I mean, I'm sure it was ESO stuff. You forgot? Come on, man. We were talking about the murders in the 3D world. The murders in the 3D world? What was he talking about? Shogun entered the room. Current number 3. Hello, Shogun. What's up? I said, but Shogun didn't reply. Was this asshole ignoring me? I was trying to be friendly here. Did he know who I was? I was lightning fast Nightheart, damn it. This is supposed to be a no lurker channel anyway. Well, whatever. I decided to ignore him. That's the nice thing about the internet. You don't have to care about other people unless you want to. So, what were we talking about? Grim? The murders. I don't care about anything 3D. It's probably something stupid anyway, right? I guess. But pretty shocking still. Shocking. Some kind of grisly serial killings or something. A lot of bad stuff's been happening lately. More Goodo pictures? Or more Goodo pictures? Oh, right. You can't handle Goodo. Lol. I mean, I can handle it. No, actually I don't want to see any of that type of stuff. But there were a lot of fakes and altered images going around lately, and trolls love to set all kinds of traps. You ended up seeing a lot of stuff whether you wanted to or not.
まあ少しは目が慣れてきちゃってるのかも。
I don't PK though. PK meant player killing. It's when you attack a stranger and steal their equipment or more money points. Only DQNs did that. DQNs were thugs and losers, the lowest form of life. I'm no Chew. I don't do things that would make other people upset. I never violate ESO's rules. That's my policy. I did a shit ton of RMT though. Yeah, you're the hero we all love and adore, lol. Mochitsuke. New generation. Know about it, right? Huh? New generation? What the hell was that? It wasn't something I already knew about, right? Grim seemed to act like I was supposed to know about it. What's NewGen? The new generation madness. They call it NewGen Online for short. It's the weird serial murders going on in Shibuya right now. It's all happening right near your house, lol. All right, that was coming back to me. But I only knew the basic outline. I hadn't really looked into it. I searched for NewGen and got a hit immediately. That is created by the new generation of youth.
この1ヶ月の間に渋谷で発生した2つの事件のことをニュージェネと呼ぶ。その犠牲者は胎児を含めて7人。1つ目の事件は友人同士5人による高層ビルからの集団ダイブ。2つ目の事件では男性の体内から胎児が出てきた。これマジかよ。
I felt a cold chill run down my spine. I found myself turning around again and glancing around the dark room. Taboo. News had a ton of old articles about NewGen, so I quickly skimmed them. Supposedly the whole internet was talking about it, calling it the new generation madness. And there were 2 incidents. One was a murder case that was so brutal that some TV stations weren't even willing to have their anchors describe it. And the first one, the group dive off a skyscraper. There were rumors that it might have been a murder too. And the parents and friends of the deceased all said they weren't the type to commit suicide. There's no sign of a motive, and from a lot of other pieces of circumstantial evidence, it was supposedly impossible to believe that they were about to kill themselves. I took a quick look. Well, starting to shake and shiver? Not really, don't care. Grim, here. Yeah, look at this, lol. What is it? A picture of the corpse.
クリムのやつ、僕をバカにして楽しんでるな。
He did this stuff sometimes. But if I let him get me, I'd lose my reputation as Nightheart. No matter what I was in the real world, in ESO I was a god. The strongest. I knew everything. I was stronger than everybody. I was a knight fighting for justice. Nobody's going to make fun of me. I worked up my courage and clicked on the URL. What the hell is this picture? A picture of the corpse. Lol, you got me. Lol, lol, lol. Who drew this, lol? I whipped it up in 2 minutes just now. You're a generation's Picasso, lol. Anyway, that was fun, but I'm gonna sleep. Night. See you tomorrow. In Baselard. Grim left the room. Current members too. Alright, that Shogun guy was still here. I'd totally forgotten about him. Not that he mattered. I wasn't feeling that tired, so I decided to do some grinding in ESO. Oh wait, today was the day Bloodtoon aired. I didn't have a TV in my room. All I needed was a PC.
あと15分ぐらいか。その前にトイレでも行っておこうかな。
I looked at the figure of Sedaton next to my monitor and grinned. I was going to get to see her today. I couldn't wait. Just as I went to close the chat window, though.
あれ？
Shogun had typed something.
なんだよこいつ急に。
I thought it was a lurker chew. From the file type, it looked like a link to an image, but someone I didn't know and someone who'd never talked to me was suddenly sending me a link. I gulped without even realizing I'd done so. I didn't know why, but I felt a terrible premonition, one I'd never felt with any interaction online before. Of course, I didn't want to click it. I glanced over at the clock. There were only 12 minutes left until my date with Sedaton. I need to wrap this up fast. What the heck kind of Kume's trap is this, lol? The world changes if you click it. Lol, what? I tried to act like he wasn't scaring me. Honestly, I didn't even want to talk to this guy. He was making me nervous. I could feel myself sweating. Was this Shogun guy even Japanese? If he wasn't, there'd be no way I could talk to him. Sorry for scaring you. Huh? Was he talking normally? I felt a little relieved. Nah, school man. Why were you lurking? Did somebody tell you to lurk for 6 months before you could type? I was thinking. Where are you from? For some reason, there was a strange pause. Shibuya. The articles I just read about in the NewGen incidents came racing back into my mind. Just envisioning them in my mind was bad enough. If I'd seen them in reality, I don't think I could have handled it. A man's stomach ripped open, the body of an unborn baby stuffed inside. And when those 5 friends jumped off a building, they were probably just chunks of meat after they landed. Just imagining it made me want to vomit. I quickly shook my head to get the images out of my mind. This Shogun guy was just so shady. It was making me delusional when I didn't need to be. I wished he would just go away. I'm from Shibuya too. A lot of weird stuff's happening here lately, huh? It's not over. Shibuya, shake and shiver. Fun. 10 times int 40 equals LR2. What the heck? Was this Shogun guy just crazy? I'm really smart and I'd never seen that formula before. I decided to run a search for it. At times like this, it was great to have access to an internet connection.
あれヒットしないな。
Was this guy trying to pretend to be smart and writing some nonsense formula? It didn't make any sense. This formula was murdered. This formula has murdered the possibilities of the world. I have no idea what that means. Anyway, what was that link? Am I actually supposed to click on it? Lol. I thought you might be interested. Oh, you got a bunch of links. Why so many? What the heck? That's a lot of links. He typed in several URLs at blinding speed. What was this guy's deal? Was he just entertaining himself by trying to scare me? Was he a buddy of Grimm's and they were having fun with me? I felt the gaze again and looked around the room, but of course there was nothing there but a filthy dark room, the same as always. I felt a strange sense of terror. Feeling like you were constantly being watched kept you from ever truly relaxing.
僕を見るな。
When I said those words, I could tell my voice was shaking. My old filthy room felt like something completely different now. They say that sometimes after you watch a horror movie or a TV show, or hear a friend tell you a scary story, even a place you know well, like your own house, will start to seem strange and terrifying, and you'll be too scared to even go to the bathroom alone at night. Right now, I was experiencing something just like that.
くそ、釣られたりするもんか。
Shaking, I leaned towards the monitor and I suddenly felt my right hand index finger tense up as I clicked on one of Shogun's links. To be honest, I had no idea why I'd done that. It wasn't like my hand moved on its own or anything like that. It was as if I'd done it without thinking. That was the only way I could describe it. It felt exactly like the wrong thing to do, but still I found myself clicking it as if the motion was completely natural.
なんだよこれ。
I found myself staring at what seemed to be some kind of strange work of art. Something that looked like a porcupine or a pincushion nailed to the wall in the shape of a cross. And beneath the porcupine or pincushion or whatever the hell it was, there was a pool of something red and black. There were also all these little piles of something that kind of looked like garbage. What the hell was this? The world of some self-proclaimed avant-garde artist? You know, one of those guys who'd make something disgusting and then say with a completely straight face, I want to give expression to the chaos of this world. I'm not interested in that modern art crap, guys. It was strange, though. It wasn't really a gooder image. It looked gooder-ish, but that was as far as it went. So why? Why did it feel so real? Why did it feel like I was right there watching it happen? Could a hallucination make you smell blood so intensely that you wanted to throw up? Could a hallucination smell so strong you wanted to vomit? I started to feel a pain in my temples. The urge to vomit wouldn't go away. I tried to grab the mouse, but my hands were shaking too badly. My hand slipped off the desk and ended up grabbing the thing's cord instead. I moved it up the cord and put it back on top of the mouse pad and then closed the image. As I breathed a sigh of relief, I saw... Whose eyes are those? I glared at the minimum necessary school schedule I'd created. I'd never gotten to see Bloodtoon in real time last night. Of course, I saw it when it was up to YouTube, so it didn't matter. But I still didn't feel any better. The last thing Shogun had said before he'd left. It was like he knew how scared I was of God's gaze. It couldn't possibly be a coincidence. I tried to think of how he might know. Had my personal info leaked? Or was this somebody from ESO who was out to get me? A godlike player like me had lots of friends, but also lots of enemies. Well, most of those enemies were just haters, though. You know, guys who were jealous of Nightheart's strength and charisma. It was best to just ignore them, I'd always found. No, that wasn't what was important now. Even after I logged into ESO, I couldn't stop wondering who he was, to the point where I couldn't even concentrate on my grinding. And to make matters worse, today was...
最悪の日だ。
It was unfortunately a day where I had to go to school. I didn't want to go, but if I didn't follow my schedule, it might come back to bite me later. I might even end up being held back.
眠いのに。
I did my best to stifle a yawn as I staggered down the road to the school. At my walking speed, it would take about 10 minutes to get there. Once I started moving, I only felt worse. I felt exhausted. It was really hard to breathe, and there was an awful sweat dripping from every pore in my body. This always happens whenever I went to school. Why'd I have to go to school at all when all it meant was suffering? I mumbled to myself as I stared down at the white lines of the asphalt, but I kept going. My route took me through Shoto Park. Once I was through the park, the school was right there. As I walked by a lake, I could see an older couple out for a morning walk, and a salaryman sitting on a bench reading the sports section. For a park on the outskirts of a major downtown area like Shibuya, it was quiet. It was a perfect place to relax. I sat down on one of the benches. Every day I went to school, I would always sit here in the morning and eat my breakfast, surrounded by leaves that were gradually beginning to change color, and watch the placid surface of the lake. Breakfast was a pastry I bought at the local convenience store. This would keep me going until evening. I never ate lunch. Nobody wanted to eat with a creepy otaku like me, and I certainly didn't want to eat alone whenever anyone else was in a group. I washed down the cream-filled pastry with a can of soda and stared up at the sky. The sky above Shibuya was always kind of cloudy and never totally clear. That was true no matter what season it was. My family's home was just a few stops away from Shibuya by train, but something made it feel like a whole different world. Oddly enough, the gray sky didn't bother me. I don't know why, but it didn't. I looked at my watch to check the time. I needed to get going or I'd be late. Being late was the one thing I absolutely couldn't do. If I wanted to only go to school 2.5 times a week, then I needed to make sure I didn't stand out at all costs. I needed to be like the air we breathe, completely invisible. I needed to avoid the DQNs, the delinquents and thugs I hated more than anything, and teachers, and spend my day undisturbed in peace and quiet. That was my goal for my school life. Suimi Academy, that was the name of the school I attended. It wasn't a very old school. It had been built within the last 10 years. This meant the building was clean and new, and it was often used as a set for TV shows with a school theme. The uniforms had been designed by some famous designer, and a lot of the dumber girls had chosen this school specifically to wear them. It was, in theory, a college prep school, but the school's test scores were slightly above average at best. The school's rules were really strict, but they were constantly telling prospective students about how much they respected student autonomy and independence. It was pretty funny how they tried to trick you. Well, I guess the rules were really there in name only. Nobody enforced them. So maybe they weren't trying to trick you after all. After all, even somebody like me who only went to school 2.5 times a week could still graduate. By the time I arrived at the school gate, there were enough students around me that it was starting to get noisy. I don't like crowds, so I kept my head down as I walked through the gate. In my mind, I was repeating, "Please, nobody talk to me," over and over. I had a sister a year younger than me who was also a student here. She would commute from home. Any day I ran into her was a disaster. Fortunately, I didn't see her today and made it safely to my classroom. I slunk into my seat without letting my eyes meet anybody else's. For a moment, I thought that some of the girls who were chattering near me looked my way, but it was just for an instant. They quickly returned to their conversation without saying a word. I knew they were all thinking that I was a weird, creepy loser. But if you ask me, you 3D girls are way creepier than I am. If you find me creepy, just don't look at me. Just pretend I'm not here. Just do that and I'll live my life without bothering any of you. If you DQNs decided to keep calling me creepy all the time instead, that's your problem, not mine. That's what I always say. I just can't understand it. Maybe you want some attention from the people you call creepy. Is that it? I stayed in my seat, staring down silently at the surface of my desk, trying not to move at all.
Yo, Taku.
Out of nowhere, somebody slapped me lightly on the back. I jerked and then looked up, annoyed.
お前、今日って学校来る日だっけ？三角くん。
It was Daisuke Misumi, my classmate. He was standing there with a friendly smile on his face. He was handsome, and supposedly girls really liked him. He was also a self-proclaimed playboy who, according to him, was always dating several girls at once. From my perspective, he was a man who'd completely given himself over to the DQN side. He wasn't somebody I wanted anything to do with, but...
相変わらず暗い顔してんな。ゲームのやりすぎで寝不足か？別に。
He was the one person in class who always tried to talk to me. He and I had nothing in common, either in terms of personality or hobbies, but for some reason he was always trying to talk to me. It'd been this way ever since we became classmates at the start of the year, and I'd never managed to figure it out. If I was a girl, I could understand it, but why would he want to talk to a guy?
引きこもりだからしゃあないかもしんねえけどよ。もっとこう、ハキハキ答えろって。
Yeah, if I could, I would. Oh, hey, Frank. Just talking to a 3D person was suffering. I got so nervous my voice wouldn't even come out right, and since I wasn't used to talking, I would always stammer. I'd get so scared of saying something stupid and being made fun of that I hated talking to anybody. You don't understand my pain. Don't tell me what to do. Oh, and I'm not Hikikimori either. A Hikikimori is somebody who never leaves their room 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. That's not who I am.
女相手に緊張するならともかく、そういう態度されると、俺らホモと思われるじゃねえか。
Was he lying about dating those girls and he was actually into men? I pulled my body away from him, trying to put some distance between us. In doing so, I almost fell out of my chair, so I quickly grabbed onto my seat.
何してんだお前。三角くんはホモなの？なわけねえだろ。お前、俺の女好きを忘れたのか？だよね。ビビった。
You wish you could be a Hikikimori? You know, I don't imagine it's as fun as you might think it would be.
ちなみに
Nisumi looked around to see who was nearby, before suddenly lowering his voice. He gave me a mischievous grin.
昨日このクラスの女子で3人目を落とした。誰だか聞きたいか？いいよ別に。だよ、もっと興味示せよ。田中だぜ、田中。田中って誰？お前、もうすぐ10月だってのに、未だに同じクラスのやつの顔を覚えてねえのか。ま、3次元に興味ないんじゃ、それも当然か。
He sighed and shrugged his shoulders. The one thing I could say for him was this. He'd never insulted my hobby. That is, my love of 2D characters. He never called me creepy. It wasn't his thing, but he never said anything about it. In that respect, maybe he wasn't such a bad guy after all. maybe that was why when you talked to me, I actually tried to talk back.
これでうちのクラスの可愛い女はほぼ攻略完了だ。そろそろ隣のクラスにも守備範囲広げようかって思ってんだよ。
Maybe he was a bad guy after all. At least that's what the girls would think if they heard him.
D 組によ、めったに学校来ねえけど、すごくいい女がいるらしいんだよ。なんか、そういうの、燃えねえか。あ、お前の場合は燃えるんじゃなくて、燃えだっけか？
Don't use that word when you don't even know what it means.
ま、お前の興味ねえ話は、そろそろやめるか。じゃあよ、ニュージェネの話、知ってるだろ？
To be honest, I was really surprised to hear that from him. I thought he was only interested in chasing skirts. I couldn't imagine him looking at a newspaper or reading the news.
集団ダイブの事件さ。あれも、噂によると殺人らしいぜ。へえ。マジだって、書いてあったんだよ、スポ島に。
Wait, Sports Tokyo was his source? Who could believe a thing written in that paper? And anyway, I already knew that. And also, I didn't care.
で、聞いて驚け。その殺人鬼が女で、しかもかなり美人だって目撃証言があんだよ。女。
As I looked at the excitement on Misumi's face, I finally understood it. So that's what compelled him to actually pick up a newspaper. It was a girl. It only made sense, I thought to myself. Wait, did that mean he was okay with dating a murderer as long as they were cute? I could see myself going for that if it was a 2D girl, but Misumi was looking out the window and off into the distant sky. He looked like he was on the cusp of achieving some great enlightenment.
どんなやつなんだろうな、犯人って。本当に美人なのかな？会ってみてー。
This was a man who made all his decisions with his little head. I was sure of this now.
俺だけは殺されねえ自信があんだよな。だってほら、俺ってかっこいいだろ？いくら連続殺人鬼でも、俺みたいないい男に会ったら、コロッと惚れちゃうぜ。
And then she wouldn't kill him, he thought. Man, what an optimist. I found myself feeling scared by how confident he looked.
僕は興味ないから。でもよ、興味ないっつったって、犯人は絶対この辺うろうろしてんだぞ。どっかですれ違ってたりするかもしんねえし。
Maybe Misumi was the killer. Nah, that was probably impossible. But I couldn't rule out the possibility that the killer was somebody from the school. If that turned out to be the case, maybe I could come up with something about how I'd gotten PTSD and be able to graduate without having to go to school.
なあ、今日俺と一緒に殺人現場見に行かね。ここから歩いて行けんだってよ。まだ血とか残ってるらしいぞ。
I didn't feel interested in the slightest. My goal for today was to get through my classes without any trouble, go home to Sedaton, and then go back inside the world where I was God.
もう小橋と長谷川は見に行ったって言ってたしよ。本当に興味ないんだ。
I hated to disappoint Misumi when he was so excited, but I had no intention of going. I opened my mouth to squeak out some excuse, but he wasn't listening.
そしたら犯人とばったり会っちゃったりしてな。犯人は犯行現場に戻ってくるってよく言うだろ。
Yeah, well, it is a thing. I don't know if it's a thing in high school, but it's certainly a thing in college if you have some sort of really traumatic event, like if your roommate, unalives themselves, then, you're off for that term, I think. Or maybe that semester or something like that.
で、次はタクがターゲットにされるんだ。死をもって罪を償い。みたいな。罪状はそうだな。引きこもってたからってことで。僕は引きこもりじゃ。
I tried to protest, but I worried that he might hate me or truly bully me, and I just gulped down my words. I bit my lip and looked away from him. I found myself looking around the room and saw something written on the blackboard. At first, I didn't really care what it was. All I noticed was that there was some writing there. But the more I looked, the more something seemed wrong. Finally, I leaned out of my chair.
ちょっとどいて。おい、どうしたんだよ。
I pushed past Mizumi and walked up to the blackboard. When I saw the words written there, I felt like my heart was strangling itself in my chest. Whose eyes are those? The words I always silently said to myself whenever I felt the gaze of God. I'd never told them to anyone else. There was no time to tell them to. Not even Mizumi. Nobody in this class could possibly know that I said that phrase all the time. Why? Who? For what reason? I spun around and looked around the classroom. Only Mizumi was paying any attention to me. Everyone else was talking to themselves, or reading manga they weren't supposed to have at school, or sleeping at their desks. What? Or who? Who wrote this? When did they do it? Was that already in the blackboard when I'd come in? I couldn't remember. Usually I didn't pay any attention to what was on the blackboard.
なあ、どうしたんだ。
Mizumi walked up to me and grabbed me by the shoulders to shake me.
聞いてる？おーい、タク。
It didn't matter who'd written them. It was just a coincidence. People use these words all the time. It was just some stupid scribbling. Yeah, just some stupid scribbling. I tried to tell myself that, but I was still really scared. I never did figure out who'd written them. I wanted to go around the class and ask, but I didn't have the courage. Before long, homeroom began. The teacher came in and asked, "Who wrote this on the blackboard?" He sounded annoyed and erased them. It was really creepy, but I decided I was going to force myself to behave normally. If I let myself seem scared, I'd just be admitting the message had something to do with me. And it didn't, okay? It was just a coincidence. I kept telling myself that over and over until it was time for me to go to a net cafe after school, just like I'd planned to do. The cafe's name was At Cafe. It was the one place I liked going to. It was along Center Street in Shibuya. There were a lot of loser salarymen and DQN 3D girls there, but you got your own personal room, so it didn't matter. The room I was in, room 37, was kind of my personal spot. It was the one furthest back in the cafe. It sucked when you wanted to get some of the free soda, but it was relatively quiet because not many people came by. I would always come here once or twice a week on my way home from school so that I could log into ESO under a different ID. It was my way of relaxing. Nightheart was too well known, you see. I enjoyed being famous, but having to be the hero everyone looked up to all the time was stressful. That's why I like to play with a different avatar sometimes. This character was a girl. Her name was Liselot. Liselot didn't really have many big accomplishments to her name. Though. Whenever I played as her, I made sure other characters got the glory. I worked out some stress by playing for 3 hours, just grinding, never really doing any hard content. Then I talked about dumb stuff and some naughty stuff with the rest of my guild. By the time I left the cafe, it was almost 9 p.m. Center Street at this hour was filled with DQNs. They would sit on the sidewalk like they owned the place, eating fast food and laughing in their disgusting voices. It made me want to vomit. And if you made eye contact with them, they'd get mad and attack you. They were barbarians. No, they weren't even human. They were worse than that. They were animals. They didn't have a shred of common social decency or intelligence. I wish they would all just die. I mean it, too. It wasn't something I was just saying. But, you know, just dealing with them was a waste of time. And I wasn't the kind of guy to waste time, so I quickly left Center Street. After leaving At Cafe, I would always stop at either the nearby Mangadarake, or the Animeite that was a little farther away. Today I decided to go to Animeite and headed for the station's south entrance. Yeah, net cafes. I wish net cafes were a thing here. But oh well, I guess I have my own house to play this stuff in, so. There were far fewer DQNs here. Really, Center Street was pure chaos. Just walking through there made it hard to breathe. If I could have, I would have rather never gone there at all. I wish they'd just tear the whole place down, leaving only At Cafe and Mangadrick. Anyway, it was time to go look at some manga and dojinshi. Oh, and Bloodtoon's 5th DVD was probably about to go up for pre-order. At some point, I find myself on a narrow street in Mario Macho. This was the route I used on my way back to the base from Animite. I forced myself to blink several times. Then I took a look inside my bag. There were a few textbooks along with a portable game system. I hadn't bought anything at Animite today. Usually I always made sure to buy at least one thing. I sighed and started to walk. From here it was less than 15 minutes to the base. You didn't have to get that far from the station for all the lights and neon to disappear, along with most of the people. At most, you saw middle-aged couples heading for the hotels or salarymen heading to their homes nearby. It was quiet and calm. It was hard to believe that this was the same Shibuya as Center Street, with its hordes of DQNs. It was a cloudy night and the moon was hidden. The street seemed even darker than usual.
まただ。
I knew the route well, with its filthy dark street, but today it felt strange, like I'd wandered into another world. Everything looked the same as always, but it felt like I was coming here for the first time. And there was this odd smell, like rotting garbage. I could feel the humidity clinging to my skin. If I hadn't known better, I would have assumed it just rained. The air felt sticky.
いや、ちょっと待った。
What do I mean again? I felt a sense of jamais vu before. When was it? Damn it, I was getting reality and my delusions mixed up. That was what the psychologist on TV said would happen if you played too many video games. Either way, it felt like I was coming here for the first time. And that wasn't all. I felt a prickling on the back of my neck, a feeling like somebody was looking down at me. I wasn't imagining it. No matter how fast I tried to walk, the gaze kept following me. Somebody was watching me right now. Their gaze was so powerful I could physically feel it. I wanted to look back, but I decided not to. This was a game I sometimes played with myself. Whenever I heard a small sound or felt like somebody was watching me, I'd play the I'm not turning around that easy game. If I turned around, I lost. Usually, whenever I felt the gaze, I had delusions about ghosts or monsters with incredibly scary faces. Yet, throughout all 17 years of my life, I'd never turned around and actually seen something there. I kind of started to enjoy this game since I knew I was probably safe. I'd listen for a moment, then raise my eyebrow in suspicion. Then I'd say a line from a manga. It wasn't that I was too scared to turn around, okay?
貴様、見ているな。その目、誰の目？なんちゃって。
I tried to desperately remind myself that I wasn't scared, but the next thing I knew, I'd stopped walking. I could feel the tension in the air change slightly. My face was damp with sweat, and my knees were threatening to buckle. I gave in and turned around. I lost the game, but of course there was nobody there, not even a passing car. Why did everything feel so strange all of a sudden? The ringing in my ears had stopped. I only noticed after the sound stopped. Until that moment, there had been a sound like a ringing in my ears, but I hadn't been aware of it at all. Now I couldn't hear anything. It was suddenly dead silent, far too silent for the middle of a city. Hold on a minute. I felt like any sound would be crystal clear. I closed my eyes tight to listen. I couldn't hear anything. This was weird. This was weird, right? Usually you could hear the sounds of distant trains, car horns, faint noises like that. So why? Were my ears broken? I wanted to scream as loud as I could. I felt like if I didn't, I'd go crazy. But I couldn't. It was so quiet, and it felt like if I broke the silence, something terrible would happen. Suddenly, a single sound shattered the silent world. I looked ahead and saw many shining things lying on the dark ground. They were scattered all over the asphalt.
十字架?
The moment I realized what they were, my legs unfroze and began to move forward. I picked one of them up. It was metal, and its long tip was sharp like a needle. A stake? A nail? It was strangely shaped, so I'd mistaken it for a cross. I gripped the stake, dazed. I could hear it, a faint sound of some kind, echoing. A cold sound, one that would make your blood turn to ice. It would start, then stop, then start again. My legs kept moving forward. I walked on as if drawn to the source of the sound. Was it just a desire to see something scary? Maybe I wanted somebody to save me, to rescue me by plucking me out of this world of silence. It was like something from an old German fairy tale. Which one was it again? Oh, right, the Pied Piper of Hamelin, where the piper leads over 100 children on a march with the sound of his flute. The sound kept going on. It was an awful sound, like something hitting something else. As I walked on, it kept getting closer. It was coming from the back of the narrow alleyway on the left. Once I rounded the corner, I'd see what it was. For some reason, I didn't think to turn around. The very idea of turning around never occurred to me. It was like I wasn't in control of my own body. I walked around the corner and saw, in the darkness, brilliant red. Oh, jeez, okay. The first thing I thought was that I'd seen something like it before. Also, that it didn't look real at all. Maybe a few screws broke loose in my mind, and my senses had just become numb. In normal conditions, I would have screamed, fallen back on my butt, and peed myself right then and there. It was something that looked like a porcupine, or maybe a pincushion. Countless stakes were nailed into the wall. As I stared at it, I realized that red blood was pouring out from beneath the stakes. The brilliant red I'd seen was a pool of blood. A faint light from the street lamps outside the alley just barely reached in, making the red glisten. There were also these little glistening piles of something that kind of looked like hunks of meat. I tried to swallow, but my throat was parched dry. There wasn't a single drop of saliva in my mouth. I realized. The thing nailed to the wall by those stakes was a human corpse. This was so far removed from my everyday life, so brutal, so overwhelming. And the one who had done it, the one who'd pounded all these stakes into raw concrete, was a single young girl. How could I tell? Because she was standing right there in front of the corpse, holding stakes in her blood-stained hand. Her back was turned, so I couldn't tell what the look on her face was, but the uniform she was wearing. It was Sumue's. The awful smell, like raw, rotting garbage, clung to my nostrils even more firmly. Every few seconds, I felt like I was about to throw up. I put my hand over my mouth so I wouldn't vomit. And then I finally realized where the sense of deja vu I'd been having came from.
あの時の将軍のリンク写真
I didn't realize I'd spoken aloud until it was too late. This would prove to be a fatal mistake. I saw the girl's shoulders twitch as she heard my voice. Then she slowly turned around. Her gaze pierced me. Her eyes were so flat and empty. She had killed him. She looked at me with startled, wide eyes. Her expression then shifted to something that combined a smile with tears. And then,
よかった。
she whispered. Glad? Glad about what? Why would anybody be glad about anything right now? It didn't make sense. It was so bizarre. I felt a cold chill run down my spine and quickly looked away. It suddenly occurred to me that I didn't want to get involved in anything weird. I couldn't talk to real girls anyway. Also, she was a murderer. The cops were on their way. I was hungry too. Yeah, time to go home. Time to leave. Otherwise, I'd go crazy.
たく、
Suddenly she said my name. I hadn't introduced myself. I'd never seen her before.
あなたに会いたかった。
Her lips curled upward into a terrible grin, like a demon's. I screamed, and as I screamed, I ran. I kept yelling until my throat hurt, running as fast as I could. Just once I looked back, but she wasn't following me. I was out of breath. I could hear the sound of my own panting. I was sitting in front of my computer monitor. My whole body was soaked with sweat. My clothes were too. What did I just see? Was that a delusion of mine? I still felt like I was about to throw up, so I went to the fridge, got a soda, and gulped it down. It was a really realistic delusion if I did say so myself, but way too gory. I was even still out of breath. If it was just a delusion, how could I be out of breath? That was impossible. I felt something strange in my right hand. I was holding it so tightly that my fingers had turned white. Until that moment, I hadn't even realized it. My heart pounding, I slowly relaxed my grip, then opened my palm. It was a single steak. Scared, I flung it at the wall. It was the steak from the delusion. I remember picking up one of the ones lying on the ground. But why? Wasn't that a delusion? I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. It's impossible. 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 I began to wander around the room, clutching my head in my hands. I needed to figure out what I'd just seen was a delusion or reality. Before I could, I slipped on one of the CD cases on the floor and lost my balance. I reached out, trying to grab something so I wouldn't fall. The only thing in reach was the shelf where all my wives resided. By the time I realized what had happened, it was too late. I couldn't hold my weight, and I ended up falling back onto the floor, as figure after figure poured down on me. Ugh, damn it. This was just awful. Everything was just awful. I moaned, then started to see if my fingers were okay. It had broken clean in two. I'd bought that thing in an online auction and had to pay a whole bunch for it. I tried to put the sword back together, but even gluing it together wouldn't really fix it. It was worthless now. I kicked my chair in anger. Then I started to cry. Why did this have to happen to me? What did I do? I sat down and glumly stared at my now swordless Ignis. When the anger and confusion passed, I turned my mind towards the girl's face and the strange sight I'd seen. The fact that I was holding the steak meant that the murder was real, not a delusion. I didn't want to admit it, but I had no choice. By tomorrow, the media would be in an uproar. I wanted nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. If I got involved with her... No, it wasn't a her. It was some kind of monster. I'd be done for. I was already pretty close to screwed anyway. I'd taken a murder weapon from home with me. The police might even think I was the killer. And that demon saw my face. There was no escaping this now. Next, she'd come after me. I needed to think. For my own sake, I needed to think so I could get out of this alive. Let's see, whose eyes are those? Shogun equals mystery. Mystery girl equals killer demon.
あの写真は事件の予告メッセージみたいなものだったんだ。
There was no other explanation for how it happened, just like in the photos. First, the girl put together fake photos on the computer, simulating exactly how the murder would happen. And that was her way of making the murder. No, I bet she wanted to call it a work of art instead of a murder. Psychopaths like her always thought that way. That was her way of making sure it was perfect.
頭がおかしいよ。でもどうしてそれを僕に。そもそもあの女はナイトハルトが僕だってどうやって知った？僕の名前をどうやって知った？
She'd be coming for me before long. She knew my name and my email, so she probably knew my address too. I pulled my legs up onto the chair and crossed my hands over my knees, then buried my head between them. The murder I'd seen yesterday was sheer madness. Just the thought of it happening to me.
死にたくない、死にたくない、死にたくない、死にたくない、死にたくない、死にたくない、死にたくない、死にたくない、死にたくない、死にたくない、死にたくない。
Okay. What is going on?
大丈夫。
Sierra was lying in front of my PC monitor, smiling at me.
タッキー、あなたはこの部屋に引きこもってればいいんだよ。したら、あの悪魔だって手出しできないっしょ。そのうちに警察がうまく捕まえてくれるって。それまでは誰も信じちゃダメ。誰の言葉にも耳を傾けちゃダメ。悪魔ってさ、人の心の隙間をついてくるのが好きなんだよね。油断すんのはノー。できるっしょ、タッキー。
でも、セーラ。
逃げるが勝ちってよく言うし。3次元のことなんてきれいさっぱり忘れちゃえばいいさ。あなたには一切関係ないことだって思えば気が楽っしょ。関係ないこと考えたって無駄無駄さ。いいこと教えてあげる。引きこもりって最強なんよ。だって誰にも会わないっしょ。つまり誰にも攻撃されない。これぞ最強の自己防衛方法なわけさ。だからタッキーは引きこもりになるべきなんさ。簡単っしょ。
そうかもしれない。
That's why she was my wife after all. She was really smart. I leaned forward and gently grasped Sierra-tan's thin waist. Even when my face got close to hers, Sierra-tan didn't seem upset at all. She just kept smiling.
ありがとう、セーラ。おかげで勇気が出てきた。そうだよ。3次元なんてクソくらいだ。あの悪魔だって、僕みたいなキモオタのことなんて気にも留めてないさ。僕は安全だ。安心して毎日演奏したり、好きなアニメを見てれば何の問題もないんだ。
でも、さっき言ったみたく、油断は禁物だぞ。
うん。わかってるよ。
Don't believe in anybody. Don't listen to anything anyone says. Beware of anything 3D. That's all I had to do, and I'd be safe.
セーラにそこまで心配してもらえて、僕は幸せだな。さてと、それじゃ気分直しに演スロット。
Yeah, I mean, it's a mage's game, so the artwork's top notch.
ライアンクロス、約束は今。ライアンクロス、ライアンクロス、果たされるから。
Oh, we are going to play River Crow's other game. The guys that did Corpse Factory. We'll play that tonight. Although it's not what you think it is.
ライアンクロス、ライアンクロス、解き放たれた。ライアンクロス、ライアンクロス、週末。
A clear voice echoed across Miyashita Park in the depths of the night. On top of the pedestrian bridge over Meiji Street, as the cars came and went below, the girl they called FES leaned up against the bridge's safety rail, seemingly oblivious to the noise below.
月夜の光が示された従者よ。
She had no audience. If she'd done a real street performance, she probably would have had at least 100 people stopping to listen. But for now, FES had chosen instead to hide herself behind the veil of the night.
この場所へ
つながる幻の道
All she had to do was stand there in the silence. Then she could be one with the darkness, and for a moment, at least, freed from the filthy air of Shibuya. That's how it seemed to her anyway.
叫びはいつしか沈黙に変わって
Suddenly she looked up at the night sky. The clouds that had covered it were slowly parting, and a faint ray of moonlight trickled through. But the bright, dazzling lights of Shibuya were hiding the hesitant twinkling of the stars.
落ちてゆく安息風に手と手をつないで
F.E.S. closed her mouth and reached up to the sky.
その目誰の目
I spent the entirety of the next 24 hours in Baselord. I didn't even quit to eat. I dedicated myself fully to erasing Takumi Nishijo and being Nightheart. In ESO, I was a god. I didn't need to be scared of any demons. Everybody respected me. I always thought how nice it would be if I could spend forever in this wonderful world.
おーエンジェルハイロ来たこれ超レアすげえ
Got an angel halo.
これは早速使わないと装備おーキャラの見た目変わったすげえこれすげえ見て見ろってグリムあナイトハルト自重しろうっせえ死ねよ負け組ちょっと街に戻って見せびらかしてこようかな
お兄
I'd finally gotten one of the ultra rare drops I wanted, and was incredibly excited. All the depression I'd been feeling had just blown away.
お兄ってばおーい開けろ
But this also meant that everybody could see that you had an angel halo, and they could all be really jealous.
やったナイトハルトがまた一歩神に近づいた
こら開けろ
Shut up. Who's that pounding on my door anyway? I'm enjoying a new rare item. Don't interrupt me.
バカ鬼
ゲ
That voice. The minute I heard it, my good mood vanished. It was an assassin sent by my parents, my little sister, Nanami. This was going to be a pain in the butt.
開けないとひどいんだからね
Damn it. A storm was about to roll in. I didn't want to open the door at all, but if I kept it shut, my parents would be the next ones to come. They'd tell me to stop living by myself and come home. My dad was pretty much the owner of this building. If he wanted to kick me out, he could. This just wasn't fair.
お兄
Shut up. Don't yell so loud. She was still banging on the outside of the door. The walls of the shipping container are a single piece of metal, so any sound echoes really loudly. She knew that and was doing it anyway. I unlocked the padlock on the inside and opened the doors outward. I had no other choice.
あやっと出てきた生存確認
This tiny shrimp of a girl was my little sister. She was 1 year younger than me.
呼んでるんだから返事くらいしてよねお兄死んじゃったかもって思ったじゃん
Every time I saw her, she was complaining about something. As you could tell from the way she was standing with her hands on her hips and pouting, she was a little brat. And if you asked me, she was nothing more than a huge nuisance.
うわ相変わらず部屋の中汚ちょっとは片付けなよ
Nanami walked right into my room without even bothering to ask if it was okay. She thought she could do whatever she wanted just because she was my little sister. For those of you out there who think little sisters are moe, I have a message for you. Face reality. Well, I guess she was kind of cute. If you were a lolly fan, she might totally be your type. But as her real brother, I didn't feel that way about her. At all. If anything, she seemed like a little baby to me. Oh, but I don't mind lolly characters. Just they have to be 2D. Yeah.
カビクサお兄の部屋って相変わらず不潔。掃除しろっていつも言ってるじゃん。どうしてしないの？まあ、どうせ掃除してくれる彼女なんかいないだろうし。お兄ってズボラだから、こうなるのは目に見えてるけどさ。こうなったら、やっぱりナナが掃除しに来てあげるしかないかな。
だが断る。
なんでよ。
お前に部屋荒らされたくない。
きっと、それがわざわざ生存確認しに来てあげてる妹に言うセリフ？
Well, you're not showing your older brother any respect, are you? And nobody asked to see if I was alive anyway.
まったく、なんでこんな面倒ばっかりかけさせる兄弟と血つながってるんだろう。たまに嫌になっちゃうよ。はぁ、なんか喉乾いちゃった。飲み物もらうね。
Nanami walked to the back of the room and opened the fridge, again without even bothering to ask.
コーラしかないじゃん。ミルクティーとか用意しといてよ。
知らんがな。
しょうがないな。じゃあ、コーラもらうね。
As usual, she seemed to have no intention of asking for her brother's permission. She grabbed a bottle of soda, the one that I'd already drank from, out of the fridge. She hesitated for a moment before swallowing it down. Disgusting. She put her lips right on it. How could a girl be so filthy? This was the problem with 3D women. As soon as she left, I should throw that bottle out. Hey, wait!
美味しかった。やっぱ運動の後の一杯って格別。学校からここまで走ってきたんだ。
全部飲んだのか。しかも一気で。
I bought that soda with my own money. Being my little sister didn't give her the right to.
しまった。
Nanami stared at the now empty bottle in shock. She must have finally figured out how rude she was being.
どうしよう。また太っちゃうじゃん。
Huh?
お兄のせいだからね。
What was she talking about?
お兄がコーラ好きなせいで、ナナまでコーラ大好きっ子になっちゃったんだから。
人のせいにするなよ。
だって、うちの冷蔵庫に入ってるの、いっつもコーラだったじゃん。お母さんがお兄のこと甘やかすからだ。知ってる？コーラってカロリーすっごく高いの。だからお兄もあんまり飲みすぎない方がいいよ。今度からミルクティーにすべき。
Milk tea has basically the same calories as soda. Anyway, you don't get to tell me what to eat. Especially after you drank all my soda. Did you come all the way here just to tell me that?
もう帰れよ。
You confirmed that I was still alive. You should be done now, right? Why do you have to come into my room all the time?
お兄、冷たい。
Nanami seemed annoyed at my words. She was glaring at me with a frown. I didn't want to deal with it, so I just looked away.
せっかく心配して様子を見に来てあげてるのに。お兄ってずっとここに引きこもって誰とも喋らずに一日を終えちゃうことだってあるんでしょ？女の子と話す機会だってどうせ全くないんだよね。
Shut up. Don't make fun of me. I'm not interested in 3D girls. I don't need to talk to them.
言ってみれば お兄と話す女の子はナナだけってことじゃん。だからさ、もっとナナのこと大事にしてよ。そしたら女の子との接し方もちょっとは分かってくるはずだし。
As she spoke, she picked up one of my figurines, Hikata-tan from Suicide Toward the Light. She stared at it. Hey, don't touch one of my wives. If you get a fingerprint on her, I'm seriously going to kick your butt.
あと、お兄は自分のことにもっと気を使って。こんなお人形さんにうつつを抜かしてる場合じゃないよ。ナナはお兄の死体の第一発見者になんかなりたくないからね。
What was my little sister trying to say? Was she starting to sound like she was starting to sound like Mom lately? What I meant by that was she was annoying.
いいから帰れよ。
そんなに帰れ帰れ言わないでよ。お兄のバカ。まだこっちには用事が残ってるの。
She was starting to get hysterical. If I made her any madder, she might go berserk. I had to stay calm.
携帯買いに行こう。
は？
What was she talking about?
お父さんがそうしろって。お兄が携帯持てばいつでも生存確認できるじゃん。お金はナナが預かってきたから今から買いに行こうよ。今時携帯持ってない人なんていないよ。時代に取り残されちゃうよ。
Shut up, trend follower. I know a lot more about what's popular than you do. I've got the internet, you know. Okay, maybe most kids my age had a phone, but I didn't. There was no reason why I would want one. I had nobody to call or text. I didn't want to spend my money on something I wasn't going to use.
だから行こう。
And Nami put the figure back on the shelf and peered up at me.
どうせお兄は機種とかわかんないだろうからナナと同じ機種にしちゃいなよ。
She took her phone out of her bag and waved it in my face.
ほら、これがナナの。色が可愛いでしょ。ついでだからストラップも同じのあげるよ。
うわ、なんという手抜きキャラ。
Hanging from the strap was a small figurine of a character that was, well, whatever it was, it certainly wasn't cute. It looked like something created by a rookie designer with no talent at all. It wasn't cute, or even creepy cute. It was just creepy.
手抜きじゃないもん。ゲロカイルンはこういうデザインなの。今すっごく流行ってるんだからね。はあ、女子高生の流行なんてお兄が知ってるわけないか。そういうとこを直せば少しは女子と会話成立すると思うよ、きっと。
Quiet girl. What the hell kind of name is Ghetto Froggy? There was no way this thing is popular. The poor girl didn't realize she was being manipulated by the media.
っていうか今はゲロカイルンの話じゃなくて。いいから携帯買いに行こうよ。あ、別にお揃いがいいとか言ってるわけじゃないからね。家族で同じ機種だと基本料金が割引されるサービスがあるからだよ。家族で持ってないのはお兄だけなんだからね。
いらない。
なんで？お金はお父さんが出してくれるんだよ。
必要ない。
It would just be a nuisance. If I had a phone, Mom would probably call every day. If I didn't pick up, she'd send her pet assassin, Nanami, here to check on me. In other words, it would be just a nuisance, one that would make my life a lot harder. I didn't want that at all.
もう信じらんないよ、このバカ鬼。もう帰る。
ああ、そうしてくれ。
I opened the door for her to go, but she didn't move. She just glared at me, shoulders heaving with rage.
ほんとバカ、アホバカ鬼。駅まで送ってくれるとかしてよ。
Okay, hold on a minute. Okay.
嫌だね。
I'd never walked her to the station at all times she'd come before. Why should I start now?
だって最近殺人事件とかで物騒じゃんか。こういう場合心配するのが兄弟ってもんでしょ。
For a moment, what happened yesterday felt like it was going to come flooding back to me. I shook my head desperately, trying to drive the thought out of my mind.
どうでもいいし。
Whatever the NewGen killer was, they weren't going to be interested in a little kid like Nanami.
ありえない。ナナが死んでもいいって言うんだ。
She was crying. I must have really made her sad. It felt great. That's what you get for disrupting my peaceful life. This would be my little way of getting revenge. That's what you get.
バカ、死んじゃえ。お兄なんか猟奇的に殺されちゃえ。
She knocked me aside and ran out the door. At least the storm was over. The room was quiet now that she was gone. It was much nicer. The base was my home. Nothing was allowed to happen here unless I wanted it to. I sat down at the computer and moved the mouse a little to wake it up from my Sedaton screensaver. Then I took a big swig from the soda bottle on the table. But it was empty.
あ、しまった。これ、ナナミがさっき飲んだやつだ。
Oh no, I just had an indirect kiss with my little sister. If Nanami was a little sweeter, it might have been great. Like something out of an H game. But with her personality, it just made me feel sick. I closed the cap of the bottle and threw it into the big garbage bag in the corner of the room. It missed and bounced off the wall, rolling under the bed. Whatever. Now then, time to get back to ESO. Time to forget all the annoying stuff that happened in the real world. But sadly, I was forced to bring my time in Baseland to an end after just a single day. When I left the base early this morning, my mental state was back in the dumps, and any improvement that I'd felt from my time in the game was gone. Why'd I have to go to school?
なんで今日なんだよ。最低最悪だ。
But I couldn't stay home. If I stayed home, it would ruin my whole attendance schedule. Then I wouldn't be able to graduate.
卒業って
Graduate.
何を卒業するって言うんだよ。
It was my idea, but still, I couldn't help but complain. When I got to the luxury residence at Choto, I suddenly realized I'd been feeling someone looking at me the whole time. But it wasn't God's gaze. There wasn't that weird feeling on my neck. As I turned the corner, I took a quick look behind me without turning around and caught a glimpse of a girl in a Suime uniform. Was it the demon from 2 days ago? Suddenly, my heart started to pound. I was so nervous that I started to walk funny. I started to feel like I no longer belonged in the quiet morning around me. I could hear the sound of birds chirping on the power lines and the faint sound of the morning news from the televisions inside the houses around me. This didn't feel like a place where any kind of murder could happen, and yet I felt like I was about to have delusions of myself being brutally killed. No, I need to calm down. I hadn't gotten a clear look at their face, had I? And if they were a Suime student, it was only natural that they'd be following me. They were headed to school, just like I was. Okay, I had an idea. Instead of following the path that led straight toward school, I made a right instead. I fought down the urge to turn around and try to act as naturally as possible. I kept walking, trying to contain my nervousness, and after a minute, I quietly turned around. Oh. Our eyes almost met, and I quickly turned my head forward again. Why was she following me? This wasn't the way to school. Was she actually tailing me? It was a face I didn't recognize. The one thing I could tell for sure, though, was that it wasn't the demon from the other day. This girl had glasses. Just knowing that alone made me feel much more relieved. I decided I should head straight to school. I'd had to cancel my usual morning breakfast, but I didn't have a choice.
くそ、女子 A め。
To me, you're just pedestrian number 1 or girl A. No more important than that. So go away. Girl A stopped tailing me and disappeared when I got to the school entrance. She seemed to have somewhere else to go since she headed for the third-year student classrooms. Maybe I was just imagining her tailing me. but it didn't make sense that she'd follow me down a route that led away from the school. Was she trying to upset me? Had I done something to make her mad? No, I hadn't. There was no way I could. At this school, I was as invisible as air. So, what was she after? Okay, why don't we stop it there for now? And this is Autopostrophe, and you have been... Gosh, it takes a long... You've been watching Chaos Head Noah running on Nintendo Switch. Yeah, this one is... takes a little while to start up. I mean, we'd just played Chaos Child, and again, you can get Chaos Child and Chaos Head Noah as a double pack on the Switch now, or you can get them individually if you'd rather have one or the other. But yeah, I mean, the opening to the Chaos Child was a guy cutting off his own arm. Seems to be a theme we've had lately. So, and here we get like a little tiny bit of the horror part of the game, but then a lot of the other stuff involving the main character, who's a super weirdo. But anyway, yeah, definitely check it out. It's a Spike and Chunsoft. It's a Mages game, so it's got a lot of quality artwork. It's got a lot of quality writing. Not every single word translated is perfect, so sometimes you run into some odd sentences here and there. But overall, the Chaos series has been around for a while. I want to say it's been almost 5 or 6 years since the first visual novel came out, and then subsequently some animes based on the mangas and the novels as well. But yeah, check it out. Again, since this is October, we're doing some more horror related stuff. So Chaos Head or Chaos Child and Chaos Head Noah seemed like appropriate things for me to do. But yeah, we'll play this more. Hopefully we'll get through Chaos Child and Chaos Head Noah before Halloween. I don't know. They're kind of long games. At the very least, I'm only going to do one ending rather than the multiple endings they have, just so we can get it in time. And then Bayonetta comes out, and I think that'll take up a lot of my time as far as other games are concerned. But yeah, coming up next, we'll look at River Crow's previous game. I really loved Corpse Factory that we finished the day before. And it'll be interesting to see what their game was before they did Corpse Factory. So hopefully that'll be exciting. But anyway, I'm going to take a little break, and I will be right back. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and I will see you at the next stream.